2023 will be a huge year for Web3 and NFTs. We're still seeing million-dollar sales for grails of some of the top collections, even though trading volume is still down significantly. And if you're new to NFTs, the idea of spending hundreds or even thousands of dollars on JPEGs and then bag holding them might sound crazy, but the numbers don't lie. In 2022 alone, $55.5 billion were traded in NFTs and over 75,000 unique collections were created. One way for us to predict and then thrive in the 2023 NFT market is gonna be by reflecting on this past year. So in today's video, I'm gonna cover what I consider to be the top 10 projects that launched in this past year, covering how they gained hype and how they stood out, but also where they failed, what mistakes did they make, and then I'm gonna show you guys what their price was right when they minted, and then look at their price action today. So if you guys wanna stay up to date with NFT content and crypto content in 2023, make sure you guys hammer the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's jump into it. Starting off at number 10, we have Three Landers, and this is a collection that had art that I think just a lot of people liked. It was very similar to like The Simpsons and Futurama, and at the time, a lot of those cartoon PFPs were performing extremely well. Now, Pomp, the artist behind the project, really had this world and universe that he created that I think a lot of people were interested in. I would say Three Landers was storytelling NFTs before storytelling NFTs became a meta. And so Three Landers launched peak bull market. Right out of the gate, they were, kind of a 2x, and then they had a euphoric pump where they got as high as 2 ETH, which was really unexpected from this project at the time. Now, they ended up delivering a handful of airdrops to holders that provided various different materials that would basically help you on your adventure, and if you gathered all of the different airdrops, it created this story. Here's the issue with the airdrop model, is that it dilutes the ecosystem. So if there isn't a high demand for the Genesis or the Three Landers collection, there's not gonna be any demand for those following airdrops. And typically with this model, it usually kills the Genesis collection. And that's exactly what happened with Three Landers. New projects came out, it kind of got left behind, and the price action just continued to fall from that all-time high around 2 ETH, sitting at where it is at today. At number 9, we have Project PXN, and this was one that I covered a ton on the channel leading up to the mint. I was super bullish on it. I thought it was gonna do really, really well. And so this project was from the team that brought us NanoPass or Nanoverse. And some of the unique things that stood out to me and why I was super bullish was that they had a gray market. And basically this was gonna use their native staking currency. So if you just held and staked, you would have these tokens, and then you would use them on their market for cosmetic items. They also wanted it to serve as like an eBay mixed with Discord. So it's kind of like a Web3 eBay Discord idea where you could also sell physical items. PXN, when it launched, it was the big project at the time. Its floor ripped up as high as I think 5 ETH. And then they also had a Dutch auction, which I believe started at 2 ETH. So right off the gun, if you minted, you were flipping it and able to get, 3 ETH right off the bat. Now, I think to the greater market where PXN failed was just that the reveal was very underwhelming. And I think the overall team just after mint went too quiet in a market where you have to keep everyone's attention. At number 8, we have Karafuru, which was a massive project during the bull market. Along with Azuki, it was really the first project where the Asian market had really backed this project heavily and in a big way. And I think the goal of Karafuru was really around just creating a Web3 IP or brand that they could then partner with existing Web2 brands, and that's exactly what they did. So USS, or Urban Sneaker Society, is a sneaker company that was founded by J-Joe, the founder of Karafuru, and basically they collabed with HYPEbeast, which is, a massive sneaker and kind of streetwear media company, and then Atmos as well. They also threw this massive carnival that was in Jakarta that I remember just seeing on Twitter. It just looked like the turnout was crazy. It was a super big deal. There was just a ton of people there, and the Karafuru IP was all over the place. Viewing that from Twitter, it created a really bullish sentiment for Karafuru and really their impact in Asia. And I think that's why it had such a massive pump as the one that it did. And if you actually look at their Twitter right now, it is currently suspended for whatever reason. So that just kind of tells you the state of where Karafuru is at. And yeah. At number 7, we have Pixelmon, one of the wildest mints of 2022, hands down. And they were hoping to be a blockchain game where basically all the creatures, animals, and assets were NFTs. And so it was inspired by the Pixelmon Minecraft mod, and then that was obviously heavily influenced by Pokemon itself. This launched peak bull market. The founder, Cyber, decided to do this 3 ETH Dutch auction for the majority of the supply, about 75 or 80%. And they ended up bringing in 60 to 70 million dollars off the mint alone, and Cyber rugged the project and basically ran off with that money. Now, eventually, this project as we know it was bought by an actual studio. They were paid to develop the project. And don't get me wrong, things have turned around drastically. What we're looking at now in terms of art and the actual NFTs themselves on OpenSea is a huge upgrade from where they were. The art was a meme that still lives on today, and I think it always will. Kevin was trending, all over the market. Like this guy was basically selling for a ton just because of how ridiculous he looked. At number 6, we have Utes, another project I covered a ton on the channel. And even if you're new to the NFT space, you've probably heard of Utes. This is from the DGods team and Frank and everyone over there at Dust Labs. And this project dropped earlier this fall, and it basically had all of crypto Twitter in an attention chokehold. You could not go on Twitter without seeing something about Utes. You just couldn't escape it. And so the best thing that Utes did was create this genius marketing campaign that basically changed the whitelist meta for NFTs. Essentially, if you wanted to be whitelisted for Utes, you had to actually submit a formal application explaining, what you liked about the project, what you've done in the space. And then if you were selected, they would blast your name out on their official Twitter. And it was just a way to get the entire community to kind of raid you. You would get a ton of engagement, follows, everyone congratulating you. And I think this was the major highlight because directly after that, every big project that was dropping switched towards this application format that we still see a lot of new projects using today. And even though they had the entire market's attention, they fumbled. The art was delayed for over a month, and I think generally just the attention and kind of hype, withered away from the project. But ultimately, Utes is going to be a project that you're going to want to keep your eyes on in 2023 with this project bridging to Polygon, something that we haven't seen done before. There's going to be a ton of opportunities to trade this. At number 5, we have HAPE. And this is easily number 1 or number 2 for just the most hype projects that launched this last year. The sheer amount of people that were chasing the whitelist for this project was unreal. I remember peak bull market. There were people in the voice chats in the Discord that were sleeping with their video cameras on just to let the mods and team know that they were that dedicated to the project and that they wanted to secure whitelist that bad. HAPE was around 12 to 15 ETH from mint, which was a huge profit for a lot of people. And at the time, ETH was really in that 3 to 3.5K range. So out the gun, this was 20 to 30K for a lot of people profit. It then settled around 8 ETH pre-reveal, and then once reveal happened, the art was bad. I think some of the teasers showed just a lot higher quality art. They were kind of glitched and bugged where like their ears were sticking through the hats. And I think one of the lessons with HAPE is that once you reveal and you kind of lose faith in the market, not just from reveal, but just overall, when you lose the market's faith and trust in your project, it is nearly impossible to recover and win that back. And that's been the case with HAPE. At number 4, we have Invisible Friends. Now, if you've been following the channel, you know I have bag bias. I mint an Invisible Friend. I still hold one to this day. I think Invisible Friends onboarded a ton of people into NFTs that weren't previously in it just because of how unique the art was. Marcus did so well with these walking animation cycles. I think a lot of people just loved the traits and the fan art, and there was just so much going on Twitter at the time where the hype just hit insane amounts. And so some of the good things that Invisible Friends have done, minus just delivering incredible and great art, was that they had a collab with Kith, which is a behemoth of a fashion and lifestyle brand. I think that's one of the best Web 2 and Web 3 collabs that we've seen done. Recently, we saw the 3D Invisible Friends launched, which were awesome. A ton of new traits were brought to the collection with that one. The downside to Invisible Friends is that Invisible Friends is an art project. They're not selling you on any big dreams. There's not a ton to speculate there. And I think also with Invisible Friends being an animated project, they don't work that well as PFPs. Now for 2023, Garbage Friends is on the horizon. I think a lot of people would admit that's going to be one of the more hype and exciting projects that launch this year. And if you want to get whitelisted for Garbage Friends, buying an Invisible Friend guarantees that. So definitely one to look out for in 2023. At number 3 on our list, we have Moonbirds. And at number 2, we have Azuki. And I'm going to kind of compare these projects together just because these are two projects that are considered, blue chips in the NFT market. They launched this year and they still have staying power. They're some of the highest valued projects out there, and they just have really, really strong communities overall. Azuki minted as a 1 ETH Dutch auction. It sold out right away, blasted up to like 2 or 3 ETH, and then has just climbed since then. I think it topped out around 30, 35 ETH in the peak of the bull market. And then Moonbirds launched as a 2.5 ETH mint using pre-mint. Now, once again, this is a project that really started a new meta and trend. Moonbirds was one of the first projects to launch using pre-mint, a raffling system. And then after that, and even today, we still see pre-mint and other raffling systems being used. Moonbirds was really the first one to kind of start that meta. It sold out immediately at 2.5 ETH, and it had a similar run up to about 30 to 40, 45 ETH for Moonbirds. Now with Moonbirds, their biggest asset is going to be the team. They have Kevin Rose, who is the founder. I think there's just a lot of high stock in Kevin Rose and the Proof Collective team. And so they brought in a new feature for staking, which they called nesting. It was basically a leveling system for just holding their assets. As you leveled up and you held on, you would get rewards. Now, the downside was that those rewards were things like fanny packs, which if you're buying, a $30,000, $20,000 asset, a fanny pack isn't something that's going to be too valuable for you. On the flip side, we had Azuki, a project that had a ton of FUD months after releasing. This was one of the few projects that totally lost the market's confidence and trust, but has totally gained it back for the most part. And that just might be my opinion. Regardless, there's a ton of controversy around Azuki and around a Zagabond, but I would just say Azuki survived the FUD. It is one of the strongest brands in the space. What I think to be the best PFP art in the space. I think Moonbirds is also up there in terms of pixel art. And so these projects both have strong teams, great art, active and strong communities, and they're holding extremely well. And number 1, it's got to be none other than the Otherdeed or the Other Side land sale. Now, this is an NFT that I don't hold. I don't even really have great conviction in because I'm not a massive believer in metaverse land, at least in its current stage. But the mint around this event was just insane. I think it was probably one of the biggest gas wars of the year in terms of a public mint. Thousands of ETH was used in gas during the public stages of this mint. It's got a supply of 100,000 and the floor price still holds up fairly well right now, given all the circumstances in the macro market. It's still very impressive. And the gameplay that they've shown and the live events that they've hosted, they've been pretty cool. They've definitely been on, a Fortnite scale, particularly by just hosting hundreds and thousands of people in a singular game instance without it like being crashed or having any major bugs. Projects that are on this list and that are still holding up today, they all differentiated, innovated, or they did something different. Whether that was creating, a new meta in terms of whitelists or just, new staking mechanisms, just new ideas overall. So understand that the next projects in 2023 that launch, if they do something that's new and different that we haven't seen before, you can expect them to be pretty solid investments, in my opinion. That's going to be it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this recap of the last year. Like I said, 2023 is going to be a massive year for this space. So I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. If you did, hammer the like button, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, I'm out.